Hold it. Is that for me or someone else? All right. Welcome back, everybody. I tell you what, I know there's some people in before I got here, but, how about Gable Stevenson? Coach Eggum's not going to be very happy, though. Gabe told me he does want to play football this year. So he's going to have to split time somehow, some way. I'm kidding for everybody who thinks I'm serious writing that down, but he is. But how tremendous are they? Top 10 in the country right now, and they host Big Ten tournaments here. And you talk about a heck of a weekend here in Minneapolis in the Twin City area, right? I'm not just talking about the snow coming. We're talking about Big Ten tournament, right, with wrestling and what they're doing and what they've been able to accomplish this year. Gable hasn't lost since 8th grade. You talk about somebody that everybody should come out and watch. Pretty special. What Coach Patino did the other night. I've been here 2 years, and I haven't been around something that exciting that hasn't been part of even my own sport. I haven't been part of something that exciting here, and I think that just shows what we can do here in all sports. With that environment, beating a top 11 team in the country and seeing our fans and the barnyard on the court, and that's what college athletics are all about. When you see that type of scene, that scene is what we can accomplish here. So congratulations to Richard and his entire team of the adversity they've handled all year, the highs, the lows, and being able to have that historic win at the end of the year. That's big time. That's a big time win, and got to be excited for him and his team as they get into the Big Ten play, finish up with Maryland, get into Big Ten tournament time, but then also NCAA tournament time. So that's going to be exciting for everybody to follow. Men and women's hockey both host their conference tournaments this weekend as well. Plus, the high school hockey tournament is here as well. And you talk about an elite time here in the Twin City area. So, but we're excited about our sport. We're excited about what we're doing. But before we get to that, I do want to mention one thing, and it's a beginning and kickoff of spring ball. But I do feel like it's necessary for me to, at times, be able to say things like this because I think it's important. One, I'm excited to be the head football coach at the University of Minnesota. I love the state of Minnesota. And people always ask me, well, why do you like the University of Minnesota? I'm going to tell you why I like the University of Minnesota. When you talk about our administration, right, that's in charge of 650 student athletes, right? That's an enormous amount of people. But when you talk about providing a life elite experience for everyone, not just some sports, I think our administration does that better than anybody else. What am I talking about? When you look at our administration and what they've been able to provide for student athletes, we have a $16 million track sitting right outside my office. And if you haven't been over there right now, you need to go over there and see it. You can't see it right now. It's under about 4 feet of snow, but you need to get out there and see that facility. To be able to pour into our track teams and give them an elite facility. Our brand new golf facility, if you haven't been over there, you've got to go see it. Right? Sometimes we get caught up in a few sports. You've got to go out there and see men and women's golf and what the type of facility they have. I got a chance to go into the new wrestling facility. We're talking about a top 10 program, right now in the nation with our wrestling team. And when you walk into that facility, that is a top 10 facility. It's top notch. And when you walk in there, you see the history of our wrestling program and all the championships we've won, top notch. Our volleyball team is getting ready to build a multi-million-dollar facility. And if you've ever been to one of our volleyball matches, you know why. Now, the energy and the crowd and what we have here at the University of Minnesota is celebrated, and it's celebrated by everybody. Our women's basketball and soccer teams went to Europe. Just think about the life experience that those student athletes get to experience by going to Europe. Because somebody's got to say yes for that all to happen, right, to be able to provide that experience for them. Our volleyball team went to Asia, and our swimming team did a training trip to Hawaii. I'd like to send our players over to Hawaii and do a little training. Spring ball in Hawaii, everybody's welcome. Come on out there. But it is really neat to be able to be and work in an environment where everybody matters. And I think that gets overlooked at times in sports in general. But when you talk about our athletes' village, 650 student athletes get to come together to bond, to be able to communicate, to connect, to talk about each other's sports. $166 million facility for all that to happen, plus everybody's individual sport. That doesn't happen a lot. And they deserve a lot of credit. Mark Coyle, his entire staff. our president and where we're going in that direction, our board of regents. I mean, it just shows that we work in an environment where everybody matters, and I'm proud to do it. So it never gets said, and it needs to be able to be said that it's a life experience for all 650 student athletes, and I'm proud to be a small part of it. And so with that said, spring ball's opening up. We're really excited about this year's football team. We have a lot returning. I think out of the 115 players that'll be on our roster this fall, you're going to love this one. 89 of them will be underclassmen. Oh, here he goes again. Underclassmen, youth, man. But that's reality. That's what we talked about last year, right? But look what those young players or that youngest team in America was able to accomplish. And now about 78% of our team are still underclassmen. That doesn't mean you can't have success. I'm just making sure people know that we talk about cultural sustainability all the time. Talk about being able to bring guys back, being a developmental program, taking guys as freshmen, playing them, working them through all those 4 years. We have a lot of depth. We have a lot of experience coming back. We might be youthful. I think we're a top 5 most youthful team in America again. But we are way more experienced than we were last year. And I think there's a big difference between being youthful, like last year, as I said, youthful and inexperienced versus youthful and now experienced. And I think we are the third most experienced team coming back in terms of the youth. I think Tennessee and Utah are in front of us, but in terms of what we're returning is enormous in terms of the numbers and the depth, especially of young talent that we have. I'm excited to get this thing going. We have a lot of open practice. We have 4 open practices this year. First open practice is on Sid Hartman's birthday, March 15th. So feel free to come out there. We'd love to be able to have you celebrate Sid's birthday as well. I'm sure you have a lot of questions. I don't want to be able to eat all that up. But, as we look at the last year of what we're coming off of, it was a tremendous end of the year. It was a little tough in the middle. It was a good beginning, but a little tough in the middle. And people always ask, you made some changes. It was a natural maturation process. And they had some success early. Maybe they were better than some teams. Our team was better than some teams, so maybe we got away with some things. And then in the middle, when we started Big Ten play and we started 0-4, I mean, remember, there was a lot of youthful players on that field. And you'd lost your top 6 players at that point, right around that point to begin with. And now you're younger than you even started as the youngest team in America. And then they basically got beat up. They failed so much, and eventually they learned how to become winners and how to win and what it took to win. And they grew up. And, we beat Purdue at the end of the year, and then we lost to Northwestern. We were 0-4 in the turnover margin. Well, the bowl game, we were 4-0, right? So when you look at how important that ball is, it's everything. We said the ball is the program. And then we had a chance to go to Madison and do what we did out there, which was historic. But again, it's expectation as you continue to move forward. We want those to be the expectations, not something that happens every 15 years. They're a tremendous program. It's a tremendous rivalry. I have a ton of respect for it. And when you're in it, you have way more respect for it than you did even when you were an onlooker from the outside. And then we go and win our bowl game. And I don't care what tier that bowl game was. That was a bowl game against a really good opponent. And we won by the largest margin of victory in the history of Minnesota's bowl game performances. And the first team ever to win the last game and the bowl game together, which, again, that's not going to sit there and just knock people over in excitement, right? But it makes those small battles as you keep building a culture and a program, those are the things you hang on. The last 3 months, we've been in our strength and conditioning program. Dan Nickel, Jeremy Cole, Ben Schumacher, and Jake are one of our new staff members, have absolutely done a tremendous job in developing our student athletes. Statistically speaking, we've kept track since 2013 of every offseason we have in this time, this 8-week period. This has been the best by far, statistically speaking. And we keep track of everything. Sub 4.6s, sub 4.5s, 10-foot broad jumps, 350-pound bench pressers, 500-plus squatters, 300-plus cleaners, 350-pound cleaners plus. I can go on and on with all that. Vertical jump, just like combines. This is the best year we've ever had. And every year, each place, we've gone up and up and up and up. And then here we started, then we continued to grow. Last year was better than the year before, but this year absolutely annihilated what we had done in the last 2 years. That's a credit to our staff, credit to our players, and their commitment level to what we're doing. It's also a compliment to our staff, our whole staff, our recruiting department, Garrett Chernoff, our GM, and everybody involved of what we're doing in recruiting. We've got some 2020s committed. We already got our first 2021 committed in recruiting, and we're going to be driving forward hard in that in the next few months too. So stay tuned to all of that. But we're really excited to be able to build on what we've done. One thing I'll say is each individual season is its own entity. Just because you did something last year does not mean you can do it this year. Just because you're bad one year doesn't mean you're going to be bad the next year. Just because you're really good one year doesn't mean you're going to be really good the next year. But I know fans are really excited. I want them to be excited. I'm excited. And but again, it's excited to change our best today. It's excited to be better today than we were yesterday. That's what I'm excited about. I love how this team's come together. It's a player-led team, and I think it's the first player-led team we've had since I've been here. That's not to say we didn't have great leaders before. There's just way more of them. And everybody seems to be on the same page. Bad teams, nobody leads. Average teams, coaches lead. Elite teams, players lead. You've heard me say that. So with that said, I'm really excited about the season, really excited. This is kind of the opening part of the whole year for us in terms of football-related activities. Look forward to having all of you at spring practice and getting to know a lot of our incomers. 14 new players have joined us already, which is a Minnesota record. 14 newcomers in January have already been here and working hard for the last 3 months. So we're excited to be able to show you our team over the 4 open practices that we have, and for you to get to know our players on a personal level. I did talk to Paul, just you know my freshman rule with media, but now if people are redshirt freshmen, they are open to you, or if they did play last year, obviously they're not freshmen anymore. So he'll work on that with you and through you in terms of who's available. So look forward to you getting to know our team a lot more, especially a lot of the younger players who maybe you don't know or haven't sat down with. So with that, we'll open up with questions.
Are there some key position changes with players?
I wouldn't say key position changes. I think there's things that have happened naturally. You know, Philip Howard is a wide receiver that we changed to corner, and that's going to stick. I think that is his position that I think he's done a really good job of developing into. I even think, having Rod Chance be able to coach him right now has made him even a better player in the short, 2 months that he's been able to actually work on his football activities as a corner. But in terms of like offensive line, that's going to be a huge competition. I can't tell you where guys are going to play. I can't tell you whether Blaze Andrews is going to be a tackle or a guard. I can't tell you whether Connor Olson is going to be a guard or a center. I can't tell you where Curtis Dunlap's going to be a guard or a tackle. That will all happen during spring practice. Remember, we had four. We had 4 when we got here. And 2 years later, I think we're going to have one of the better offensive lines in the Big Ten. I feel that way. I think Brian Callahan's done a great job developing that unit very quickly. Remember, we started 3 in the bowl game that were freshmen. 1 was a sophomore. So you have 4 underclassmen at the offensive line starting in that bowl game. And there's plenty of depth behind it. A guy by the name of J.J. Gaudet, he's a true freshman that's come in and basically taken our team by storm. He's a young guy, and you're going to get a chance to be around him. You're going to look at him like, wow. And when we had him committed, he was only 240 pounds. And when you see him now, you're going to be like, my goodness. You talk about projection. Sometimes those projections work. Sometimes they don't work. This one worked in terms of at least what he was going to look like. So you might even see him in the mix. And then you've got Jason Dixon eligible this year, who wasn't eligible last year to play. And so you're going to start to see some other faces too, and you start to see some depth at a lot of positions, not just the offensive line.
Is Tanner Morgan the quarterback, or do you start from scratch with the competition?
Yeah, I don't know if you start from scratch, but Tanner and Zach have the most experience, right? And they're probably going to be the ones at the beginning to get the most reps. But it is a competition. And I've said that from day one to both of them. That's not news to them. Every single position we have is a competition. Just because guys have played doesn't mean you're going to play again. If you get beat out, you get beat out. And remember, it's my job to replace everybody on the football team through recruiting or somebody beating you out. It's your job to keep your job, right? And I think our teams truly understood that, not as a mean statement. They just know what it means now. They know that that championship has to be bred by competition, and we have to be able to build that on and off the field. And I think they're starting to understand what that means, that it's not a negative comment when somebody says that. It just means, hey, this is a real, sustainable, becoming a championship culture. And that's how you win championships. You got to continue to create that competition all the time.
Antoine Winfield doing?
Antoine's doing great. It's nice to be able to see Antoine healthy again, smiling, and he is having a tremendous offseason. I can't wait to get him back on the field. And I know he's biting at the bit. Heather says it's chomping at the bit, but I say biting at the bit. So chomping at the bit, if you will. So
he'll practice for spring ball
He will practice. Yep, he will practice. We have a lot of young players, though. Antoine's played a lot of football already. I know he's, what is he, a sophomore? Technically, he's been here, 3 years? And he's only a sophomore, technically, right? And so he's played a lot of football. He's been around a lot of football. He will play in spring, but I'm probably going to be able to play a lot more young guys in there to give them and catch them up, get them up on their reps, especially the guys who came here in January or were redshirted last year.
Did you get all the medical red shirts you're hoping to get?
We got them all. Yep, we got all of our medical red shirts we were hoping to get, and we're very thankful for that. We knew that would happen, but we knew that you never know until it's over. So really excited about that.
Are you saying that Winfield won't have any contact then in the spring, and then?
Oh, I think he'll have contact. He's going to play football. It's just the amount that I give him.
Okay, and then Rodney and Shannon, would they fall into that same group too?
They're farther behind. Yeah, they're farther behind. Antoine's 100% healthy, right? So that's a big difference. He was 100% healthy a month and a half ago. Rodney and Shannon are not 100% right now. They're going through rehab from surgeries and things like that they've had. So you might see them on the field. They might be for most of spring ball, probably rehabbing inside the training facility because that's the most important thing for them to do. For them to help the team, that's what they've got to be able to do. Might be some points of practice they come down. Rodney's ahead of Shannon just naturally because he had a surgery way earlier. You might see him do some other things, but Shannon will probably not do as much at all. But again, there's not a rush for that, and they're very mature about how they've handled their treatment, how they've handled their rehabs, and I'm really proud of the progress they're making.
Over the years, what are some of the most important things you've learned about approaching spring practices?
That it matters. It really matters. But everybody does it differently. I think each year, our first spring practice, we don't know what we have. We're just finding out what we have. Let alone have 4 offensive linemen. We're just finding out what we have to work with, right? And then how we're going to be able to basically be able to put our guys in the best position to be successful year one. Year two, you have this influx of young talent, which you have your first big recruiting class coming in. So you know what kind of team you have, but then it's still the majority of your team are so young, they're not even there yet, that are going to contribute. The Rashad Batemans and people like that weren't even here yet. And so it was a little bit more of, okay, we know what we're going to be, but it's almost not buying time, but we've got to get better and almost do what we can to master our offense and defense. When you get to year 3, now I know what kind of football team we have. I know our personality. I know what we want to become. I know what we're good at, what we're not good at. You have a lot more information. And year 3, now we have this influx of 14 new players, which are going to have to help us in some areas, right? So which can help, which are probably going to be redshirted. How does our team continue to gel together? It's not as much, okay, it's got to be a longer practice to find out. It's more about being way smarter, way more efficient. We've said from the start we want to work smarter, not harder this year. And I made sure our players understood. That doesn't mean you're not going to work hard. They're like, Coach, this is harder. We shouldn't be doing this. It just means how we do our winter conditioning program was way different than it was last year. How we're in spring practice and how the spring practices are designed was way different than last year. There's a lot more opponent focus in spring ball this year than there was last year. To be able to get ready more for the season and get our guys familiar with whether it's 34 eyes or different things that we see that maybe we don't do as a defense. So those are some of the things that we do. But each year is its own entity. Each year presents its own challenges and opportunities. There's a lot of things that I'm not concerned about in terms of health-wise, letting guys be able to take their time getting back because I know what they can do. That's each year has its own challenges.
How is it for you then this year going into this spring ball with such a solid foundation and also some momentum and excitement behind the program?
Well, it's exciting. It's definitely exciting. I think as a head coach, you're always doing everything you can. You have 130 players, 115, 20, 130, whatever it is when the number comes out. Those are all your sons, right? And so you're getting to know all of them in every situation, on and off the field, academically, socially, spiritually, athletically. And each year you get to know them more and more, right? You get to see them more and more. And I know the personality of this team. I know the personality of the players. I know what we can do and what we can't do. And it's exciting as you keep building on this. You're talking about an offense that last year, at the end of the year, we had 8 freshmen starting. That was a top 5 offense out of the last 60 years in the University of Minnesota with that many young players. That should fire you up. But again, what you did yesterday doesn't matter. You've got to be better today. And we take those in one-day approaches. So it's great for everybody to be excited. I want our fan base to be really excited. They should be. But me, I'm really excited, but I'm excited for the daily opportunity to get them to all grow and change. That's really fun because other years you're just finding out what you can do to just get to know them, let alone keep making them better. Now you know of them, and now even in recruiting, even the kids that came early, the 19 kids or the 14 kids, you know who they are, and you've recruited them for about 2 years. So now you know how to be able to develop them and get them to be the best they can be. So that's what I'm really excited about. Our coaching staff is really excited about getting back on the field, and so the opportunity. I guess we're all excited for the opportunity.
How involved have you been with Cash and Donnell as they're getting ready for the draft process?
Yeah, I've been in contact with them. They go do their training other places with their agent and things like that, but very supportive. Talked to him a lot. Talked to Cashman the other day. He did a tremendous job at the Combine. I think he set himself up to be in prime position for a lot of opportunities that'll come his way. But again, he's an overachiever. So when you're an overachiever, you're going to have a lot of opportunity that comes your way, whether that's through football or outside entities that come into play or opportunities from the outside world that come in. So I'm proud of both of them. Again, I hope Donnell, gets drafted. We haven't had an offensive lineman drafted in 13 years. We need to change that. And I'm not just saying just now. I'm talking about that will change in the next few years when these group of young linemen come up and through. And it will be a lot of them because that's something our league needs to continue to move forward, or you have to be able to move forward in our league is incredible line play. But that's something I think we have in the making right now. And like I said before, I think that's one of our strengths of what we're building in 2019. But you got to give those guys a lot of credit, and I know and heard they represented themselves very well at the Combine and represented us all, the state of Minnesota and the University of Minnesota there.
What can we expect from a Joe Rossi defense now that he's got time to be able to establish it? And then with the 10th assistant going from a defensive line focus to breaking up the secondary.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think Joe Rossi's done a great job of bringing our staff closer and together. There's been some changes, obviously, on the staff, which is always good. I like guys when they move on and move up and get their opportunities to be a coordinator or go back home or go back where they played at or whatever it is, right? I love when they get an opportunity to do that, and we'll support them 100% doing that. But I think everybody's kind of come together, and Joe almost got a chance to kind of start over with his own staff, which I think is really good too. When you get a chance to be able to have your own guys in there, that you're part of the hiring process and these personalities of what these coaches can do, I think that's always helpful. It's not like he just gets to pick them. He's part of the interview process, but I take his opinion very seriously. And I thought he did a great job through the whole hiring process of what he needed. Because, again, when I hire, I want him to feel the best he possibly can in terms of his defense. But, again, it's a very similar style of defense just because that's the personality I've had. You've seen our defense work really well, and you've seen it haven't worked very well, right? But in both places, whether it's in Western Michigan or here. But, again, I think he's made it his own. And I won't get into all the specifics of how he's made it his own, but it's definitely his own. And I love that about him in terms of what he's been able to do to it. In terms of our secondary being able to break up, I thought watching last year, I thought what we needed to do over the last 2 years, I thought we really needed to be able to break up the secondary. There's so much we do on the back end. And I think the back end's really tough to coach when you have just one guy doing it. And, Jamal Adai was tremendous at it. Mo Lindquist was tremendous at it. I mean, they were exceptional at doing it. I just thought I overloaded maybe the secondary too much, secondary coaches at times. And so decided to flip that. And so we brought in Rod Chance. He was a quality control coach at Oregon, interviewed a lot of candidates for that job, and he was up and away by far the best candidate, and it was awesome to see. And it doesn't matter your resume, it doesn't matter where you've been, who's the best coach for us, and he deserves a lot of credit for being who he is, and he got a heck of an opportunity, and he's taken advantage of that. Joe Harris-Simiak, we have Joe, and Jim on the defensive side, so I get confused. Called a lot of Joes, Jims, a lot of Jims, Joes in the staff meeting at times. But Joe Harris-Simiak, you talk about a guy who's a head football coach at the FCS level, head football coach, and an up-and-coming football coach. Give up an opportunity to keep being a head coach. It wasn't like he did bad and got out. We went to the semifinals of the FCS and lost. And I'm not glad he lost, because if he lost, we had an opportunity to maybe get him quickly or a little bit faster and quickly, and he did. But you're talking about a guy who gave that up to come to the University of Minnesota and coach our safeties. He's one of the I've already sat in his room, one of the best teachers I've seen He's tons of energy, very intelligent, very smart. He's got coordinator written all over him. He's already done that at the FCS level, but he is very, very sharp, and our players have adapted to him very quickly, and he's embraced him. So we're happy to have him and his family here. And then a lot of you know Jim Panagos, just from covering maybe the Vikings over some years. Jim wanted to be back in the Twin City area. And a lot of times you're talking to coaches about why they should come to the University of Minnesota or why they should come to the Twin City area, and you're talking about what the Twin City area has. Jim was opposite in terms of, I can't wait to get back to the Twin Cities. Do you have anything? And that's basically what it was. He couldn't wait to come back here and coach, be back in the Twin City area. It's been his favorite place to coach. That's what his statement was to me, and that goes a long way. And so his experience with the Vikings is going to help our defensive line. You talk about a guy who can match my energy, match my intensity, match the intensity of the culture. It's off the charts. And the more people you have coaching in an energetic way, in a positive way, that helps the program. And Jim is one of those guys that can do that. Very intelligent, very smart coach, and he's going to get the most out of our D-line.
Is there a certain player or unit that you're most interested to see what they do during spring ball?
I think all of them. It's not just one position. It's all of them because it is competition at every position. I'm just excited for the whole football team. I am, in terms of who's going to play, who's going to really kind of surprise us. There's a guy by the name of Eric Gibson who was hurt last year. You didn't get a chance to see him play, but his numbers have been off the charts. I mean, off the charts. And you watch him, do certain drills that you're allowed to do, and you sit there and go, okay, well, now he's got to go play football. But, he's a guy that's been not a surprise, but like, wow, I can't wait to see what he does. So there's guys like that who might have been hurt or redshirted last year that you're really excited about the progress they've made, that you'd really like to see them, have success.
Coach, if
From a leadership standpoint and also a production standpoint, just how big is it to get Tyler Johnson back for one more season here?
That's huge. I think, you look at every player's decision when they decide to do things, and I'm not sitting there saying he made the right or wrong decision. He made the best decision for him. He made the best decision for what he thought was best for everybody, and I think he made the right decision. When you sit there and look at everything and cards on the table, and to be able to come back and have an opportunity to do something we haven't done here in over a half a century, to be able to do things as a team, that was his first thing. Then it came to him, get his degree, which was incredibly important to him, and then he can accomplish a lot of things individually. And I think, he doesn't focus on just that. It's the team first. It's what we could have done with the team. But in the back of your mind, just like Corey Davis, when Corey Davis came back at Western Michigan, he was all about his degree. He was all about helping the team, winning a championship, doing this and that. But he still wanted to be the most prolific receiver in the history of college football, and he is. And he accomplished that. And Ty's got that same drive mentally that if I'm going to do this, I'm going to accomplish X, Y, and Z. But I loved how Ty put everything first with the team. And that was his main focus, the degree, the team. And then, I'm sure I'm going to catch some balls this year, and that will come. But I'm really excited that he made that decision because he makes our team better. And he definitely does. And I think one thing Ty Johnson's done a better job of, which I think I was critical last year, he is a way better leader than he was ever last year or the year before. A way better leader. And I think it's starting to become more natural to him. And guys like Rashad Bateman look up to him, and Chris Altman-Bell and Demetrius Douglas. And you even look at, Michael Brown-Stevens, who's a brand new receiver from us from Ohio. And you can tell those guys look up to him and want to be like him in their own way. In terms, they want to be their own player, but they want to do what he's doing. So I think Ty's really kind of captured that leadership role. Still learning of how to continue to do it. But in the next, 10 months, we're going to do everything we can to teach him as much as we can about leadership before he goes and gets in the real world.
If you have one of the best
Guys, this is the
offensive,
last one. Go ahead, Dave.
if you have one of the best offensive lines in the Big Ten, what does that allow your program to do or go to?
Well, like I said before, I think that's the name of the game in the Big Ten. I think offensive line play. You look historically of people who've been able to win championships. You look at people who've been able to win at a high level consistently. They pretty much have the best offensive line or one of the best offensive lines in the Big Ten. It's a very, very physical conference. It's a long season. It's 9 conference games. We have 9, which I think is the right way to go. And but it is a battle every single week, especially up front. And if you can have bigger, stronger, more athletic, smarter, and you continue to develop that every single year, I think you're going to have a lot of success. And then you look at our tight end position. I said before, Jake Paulson, last year he was playing at 245 pounds. He's 270 right now. You know, you look at Brevin Spanford, who was redshirted last year. You know, he's becoming a better tight end. Bryce Withams having a heck of an offseason. Keeft is way bigger than he was. We want to get them more involved in what we do, but we can only do what players can do, and we don't want to give them out things that they can't do, but keep building them from what they can't do to what they can do. And you just don't want to give them too much too soon. And I think that position's developed really well under Clay Patterson, and Kirk Schrock is doing a great job developing them. And then not only that, you put your running backs in there. We have 4 guys, right, that have rushed. If you combine those 4 guys, that's 6,500 yards, 52 touchdowns. That's a lot. I would call that a lot of productivity coming back from the running back position, right? That's unheard of. And that's not including Seth Green. So when you start talking about just those 4 running backs, you look at all that productivity, and then you add to the offensive line. But nothing's guaranteed. They got to go earn it. Just because I say that, they deserve it. They deserve to feel that way. But if you take that for granted, or you slip one day in your work ethic or your process or your vision, you'll get passed like that. And I know our guys, and Brian Callahan won't let that happen. They're a very humble group. They work together really well, but they're a very hungry group too. And the whole culture drives you forward every day and eliminates complacency. So. Row the boat, Skate, go Gophers. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.